Hello, Martin here from TSI. This video is a little bit different to our normal videos here at Tactical Sports. I wanted to do an introduction to gel ball for new players out there who have never owned a gel blaster before, who don't know the ins and outs of setting up a gel blaster. Now I must admit, all of our other kind of content is more aimed towards the more experienced and maybe more advanced type of gel baller or gel blaster enthusiast. But for those new people out there who have just bought their first gel blaster, don't even know where the battery goes and don't necessarily know how to grow your gels and fill your mags, this video is for you. So I thought we'd do a bit of a rundown on what you would do when you buy your very first gel blaster. Now I have to admit, I don't really have anything here gel blaster wise that is a bare bones basic stock blaster. So you have to work with me in that some of mine are already a little bit different to what yours will be out of the box, but at least I can give you a bit of a rundown on what we're going to get. So let's grab a blaster from the wall behind. There's all different kinds of gel blasters out there. There's different kinds of batteries, different kind of magazines, and of course different gels and all the different ins and outs towards gel balling. But this is a fairly basic little ARP9. It's a sub $300 blaster and very common to what people would be buying. Now, as I said, different gel blasters have different battery compartments, different magazine types, etc. So I'll give you a couple of examples of where batteries go and how connect, that kind of thing. So this particular one here has the subcompact kind of stock, which extends out by pressing the button underneath. And this one has a battery compartment under here. Press the button, opens it up, and our wiring's in here. Now as you can see, this kind of plug is not the kind of plug that comes on a standard blaster. It's called a Dean's T-plug. It's a high amp, high temperature, very common in all your electric hobbies from radio control cars and all that kind of stuff. Now when you buy your blaster, it's probably going to have a little opaque, translucent kind of connection called a mini Tamiya. It's very simple, can only connect one way. There's a little hook on there for you to press the button so that it clicks into place, or conversely doesn't come apart unless you press the button. So this particular one, we've got a basic battery. Again, all sorts of different batteries that you can buy. This is your run-of-the-mill entry-level 11-volt battery. A lot of blasters will have a model slightly longer than this, and again have your mini Tamiya translucent clear kind of connection. But this one, for example, slides in the back tube here, pretty much disappears all the way inside, and we connect up our connections. Now the Dean's plug, as you can see, is a T shape, across the top and points down. Can only connect one way. It just literally pushes together, and then obviously your battery drops inside. As we connect that up, you can push it all the way inside and put your stock back on. This one just slides back on into place. Line up the bars, push the button, and in it goes. And then of course we've got that cap that we can put on there too. So once your battery is installed, I'm not going to worry about this for now. Generally most gel blasters, whether they're an M4 type, now obviously this is an ARP, but it's the small version of an M4. You'll have your safety, which is a rotating fire control. Most will have a safe, semi, and an auto, or off, hell, and pain, or pew, pew pew, and pew pew pew, something like that. So when you put it in your mode, pull your button, pull your trigger, it fires. Alright? Now, all different types have different fire rates and different powers, I guess you could say. Now, a lot of your gel blasters will come with a 7-volt battery, and your fire rate will be pretty slow on full auto because your batteries are low power and your gel blaster is a basic one. All batteries, of course, can be upgraded depending on the blaster as to what you should do battery-wise. That's probably more of a question for your local retailer or someone else you know with gel blasters. The most common upgrade battery for a long time has been the Turnigy batteries. Now these stem straight down from Airsoft internationally. This battery size is designed to fit in these battery compartments. Also fits in a lot of other universal sizes. And that's why this is just known as an Airsoft battery, because of its shape and size. Then there's similar shape and size batteries, but generally just slightly higher quality versions. This one is the Azrael's Armory 11 volt battery. Nearly identical shape and size to the Turnigy. It is the same milliamp rating, so 1.2 milliamp hours and 1200 milliamps. It's the same fuel tank size, but this particular battery delivers that 11 volt at a faster rate than this one, making this the higher quality battery, better for your modified high-end blasters, and most of your basic blasters will run it too. The difference between these batteries and this battery is this battery can be charged by a very basic little charger, and it's not really unsafe to do so. As an example, where are we? This is a USB type charger that comes with a lot of your base model blasters. This plugs into your telephone charger or your computer or anything that's got a USB plug, and it connects using the white plugs. Can only really go one way. You've got little arrows on the top and you've got slots on this one, and it just plugs straight in. Although that's a 7 volt version, so that one won't plug in, but it will basically plug straight in there, and then this will flash red when charging and go green when it's charged. This kind of charger cannot be used safely on a LiPo battery, a lithium polymer battery. This kind of battery can also be charged on a bigger charger like this one. This is a compact charger. It plugs into the wall, 240 volt, and it is a much better charger than the USB. It does give your battery a better charge. It is better for the battery lifespan wise, but still this battery charger is not ideally adequate for charging your LiPo battery. Lithium polymer batteries are renowned for being a little bit unstable and can potentially, and actually definitely can happen, burst into flames when charging or discharging if it's done incorrectly. So using a basic B3 type charger like this is highly unrecommended for a lithium polymer battery. If you buy a gel blaster that comes with this kind of charger and a LiPo battery, please don't use it. Now I know brands like Cyma and a lot of other gel blaster brands come with these too. A low grade, very low grade version of this battery and this kind of charger. They are not a combo that I can recommend at all. If you're running your tubular NIM nickel metal hydride type battery, then this battery is quite safe to charge with this charger. It won't give it the perfect charge, but it's safe to do so. If you're running a LiPo battery, you must only use a balance charger. Now a balance charger allows you to plug your white balance port to your charger. Now this particular charger here has an external balance port. A lot of them you'll plug that straight into the side of the charger. And then you have to also connect your small plugs, whether it be a Dean's type plug to something like this one here, or whether you have a different kind of connection. You'll have noticed that on my batteries, use a small banana plug. But if you're connecting a LiPo battery to your charger and use your balance port, this is most definitely the safest way to charge your LiPo battery. Charging using a balance charger takes all 3 cells within this battery and charges them, at the equivalent rate until they're all matched. If you use something like this charger on a 3-cell battery, it charges them kind of one at a time, and then your last one never charges fully, and that's what kills your battery. It doesn't charge fully, and it makes the battery labor. When you're using a balanced charger that's particularly a smart charger, you can constantly monitor the 3 cells while charging your battery to make sure that it's charging them equivalent. And that massively improves battery power and battery outright lifespan. It won't just cark it on you one day, it should last a long time. Now, a lithium polymer battery, if at any point you see it starts to get a little bit puffy and expand and is softened around the edges, that means that battery has actually passed its use by date. It's safe use by date. You shouldn't keep a LiPo battery, especially you shouldn't use it if it's gone puffy, because that has now become unstable and something has gone wrong as far as its charging or its discharge. And it then could quite potentially be reasonably dangerous. You should also, don't think I got one here, here it is. You should also use a Liposafe battery charging bag or pouch when charging your LiPo battery. This is made of Kevlar, so it's fireproof for when charging, just in case something goes wrong. The combination of a high quality balanced charger and a LiPo bag means you should be reasonably safe as far as charging goes, but because LiPo batteries are renowned for being a little bit unstable, you should do it safely. Now, back to the blasters. So you've got your brand new blaster and you pop your battery in and we want to shoot it. Okay, so there's all different kinds of gels and all different kinds of magazines. So the most common gels on the market at the moment, the better of the gels on the market at the moment, are the X-Tac booms and the good old faithful Alpha King. Now there's 2 packs of Alpha Kings. You want to go for the one that does not have a big AKA logo in the corner. It's the smaller pack with no logos that is the better gel. There is also the Ozgel Ultra Elites, which are really nice and hard, that will basically run in all forms of blaster. Now there's at least another 15 different types of gel out there. I personally don't have any of them here because I don't use them. I only run Booms, Alpha King and Ozgel Elites because I know they work the best. Standard low powered gel blasters should be able to run pretty much any gel, but having said that, the better gel is always going to give you a better performance. As you can see, the gels come in a shrunken, dehydrated crystal. They're around about 1.5 millimeters in size from in the pack. Now these of course need to be hydrated. They need to be soaked in water for them to expand up to the 7 to 7.5 millimeter in diameter for them to work in your gel blaster. Now, I highly recommend using some form of juice bottle because these packets hold around 6,000 gels. Some brands are a little bit more, some are a little bit less, but in general, one pack will fill a 2-liter juice bottle. If you're using the brand of gels that they hold about 10,000 gels in a pack, that will then fill a 3-liter milk or juice bottle, all the way to the top. So when it comes to growing your gels, if you want to grow your whole pack of gels, my recommendation is tear it off, pour the whole pack into your bottle, and then fill the whole bottle to the top with fresh water. I generally prefer a filtered water just because it takes out a little bit of the iron and the calcium and things in it and gives a little bit of a better grow. But please don't fall into the misconception of you needing deionized and all this kind of fancy pants stuff to get your gels to grow. Straight water that isn't too polluted with chlorines and stuff is the ideal. Put your gels in the bottom of the bottle and fill it all the way to the top of water. Every single ounce you can get of water into that bottle. That way when your gels grow from crystal to 7.3 mils, they're not going to run out of water. As you can see, this was a full pack and I've got this much of water in the top. That means I didn't starve my gels of water in the growing process and they're not going to undergrow. If they run out of water in the growth process, they're not going to grow fully. Now while your gels are growing, I also recommend, let's say every half an hour to an hour, if you're at home, to give the bottle a bit of a tumble while the water's in there. That just helps the gels from while they're growing and building up a little bit of pressure as they're expanding, from not being continuously one on top of each other and potentially forcing them to grow out of round. Now, growing in a big bucket or a big container can also improve that, in that they can be spread out and not have too much pressure on the top of them. Having said that, I always just grow in the 2-litre bottles, fill it all the way to the top, and give it a bit of a tumble during the growth period. As far as time frames go, all of the better gels, as I said, Booms, Alpha King, Elites, want to have a growth time of a maximum of around about 3 to 4 hours depending on the gel. Now, the Alpha Kings, they can grow for 3 or 4 hours with not a problem. Booms, the same. Ozgel Elites like around about a 2.5 hour growth time. Now when I say growth time, put your gels in, fill it to the top of water, tumble it a bit at 2.5 hours or 3 hours, take the lid off, cover it over, cap it over like this, and pour 99% of the water out of the bottle so that there's nothing but just maybe a little bit in the bottom. Put the lid back on and they will store in that bottle there out of direct sunlight for weeks. Some brands of gel don't last as long in storage as others. Other brands of gel last for a lot longer. For example, Ozgel Elites, I found after around about a week to 10 days they can start to deteriorate if not used. Alpha Kings and X-Tac Booms, they can last several weeks as long as they're out of direct sunlight. Now I also don't recommend storing them in the fridge. I've never found any gain storing in the fridge at all. Temperature doesn't seem to affect them after they've been grown. And definitely do not try to freeze them. If you try and freeze your gels, it will more than likely damage your gel blaster for the main reason of, whilst they're absorbed, they're full of water, even the harder gels have some squish factor to them. They will all squish out of round. If they are rock solid as in frozen, they can't squish out of round, and you're more than likely going to damage your blaster by trying to squish essentially a square peg through a round hole. If it's out of round, it's not going to fit down your barrel and it will more than likely cause damage. There is also no performance gains to a frozen gel in that, yes, they are harder, they will probably hurt more if you shoot them, but they're not going to fly better, they're not going to be any more powerful, and definitely not more accurate. Okay, so that's the gels explained. My absolute preference for a general use of high-powered modified gel blasters and gas pistols is the X-Tac Boom gel. The reason why I like the X-Tac Boom gel is it's hard. It's as hard as the Ozgel Elite, but it's also, in my opinion, the most consistent in size and shape, which means they're all very similar to around about 7.2 to 7.3 millimeters in size, in that there's less that are smaller and less that are bigger. In purely only electric powered blasters, taking out gas powered pistols, my preference would probably be the Alpha King over 300 FPS gels. The ones with the AKA logo in the corner, that this is not, are a lot softer and only good for standard blasters. In my modified blasters, these work exceptionally well. They're not as hard as Booms and they're not as hard as Elites, but they fly really well. That tends to tell you that they're maybe a little bit more consistent in shape if they fly better, and also just keep their shape nice while they're spinning in the air. So now that we've grown our gels, a lot of people like to use smaller bottles with a little funnel on top, like they call it a speed loader. Others tend to use just a smaller bottle. Here's one here. These are just chocolate milk bottles to put your gels in your magazine. Now, speaking of magazines, all the different gel blaster types have different kind of magazine. The little ARP has the little stick mags. This is two joined together, like that there. The UMP type of gel blaster uses a very similar stick mag that's a little bit squarer. The weirdo looking Vector also uses a stick mag but it goes in on an angle. Now the one thing that is the same with all three of these type of mag is the fill port is on the vertical side of the magazine. So they fill through the fill port there. So as you can see, I popped it open, and that's where we feed our gels in from. So for the Vector, for example, I take my small bottle or my big bottle and you pour it straight into the hatch. Now I like to make myself a little bit of a funnel with my fingers and then pour it straight on in. The mag's full and I dropped 2 gels on the floor. I've got a couple in my hand. That's a full mag. When we're looking at your M4 type blasters, they will have the bigger PMag style mag. Some magazines will have the fill port on the back here, just like the stick mags. Other magazines will have the fill port on the top. Again, take your bottle or your speed loader, whatever you need. I make a little funnel with my fingers and pour the gels in. There we go, completely full mag. Exactly the same for the top load and the different types. One thing that's very, very important to remember when you first put your magazine into your gel blaster with your battery connected, when you shove it on in, take your blaster, when you shove your mag in, I don't have a battery connected, my battery's actually in the back here but it's not connected. When you put your mag in and you fire, no gels are going to come out. To start with, about your first 30 or so shots, a gel will not come out of your blaster. For the simple fact that in this magazine, you've poured your gels in the back here, so you've filled up this main cavity. Down the bottom here is a little electric motor that spins a wheel that pushes gels all the way back up this side into this port here. Now this port feeds into your gel blaster. So your first 30 or so shots is your magazine pushing these gels all the way back up until they even get to your gel blaster before you can fire it. So while we're talking, I'm just going to plug my battery in. So as we said, very first time you shoot it, no gels will come out. And as you shoot it a little bit more, gels will start to come out. So put it in semi-auto, for example, no gels, 1 gel. Put it in auto, and gels start to come out. So you've got to give it a few seconds for it to feed your gels. Now, if you didn't see there, when you take your magazine out after you're firing, some gels will drop out. Because the magazine has pushed gels from the mag and has gone up into the T-piece, into the feed tube inside the blaster, and you'll probably have 2 or 3 set up in here that will just fall out as you disconnect your magazine. So as you can see now, my gels are all the way to the top here. Once you can see gels at this point, there won't be a delay before the gels come out. It will then fire as soon as you pull the trigger, unless these gels come out, of course. So from this point, we're ready to shoot, everything is working. Now, back to batteries for a minute. It's really important you do not let your batteries run really flat. No different to your car, no different to anything electronic. If you're using your gel blaster and you get used to how it sounds when you're shooting it, you know, how fast it shoots, how the motor sounds. If you start to hear it going from zip, zip, zip to go to zip, zoop, 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 that means your battery's flat. If you keep shooting at that point, you will kill your battery. And I don't mean necessarily just go flat. I mean, you might not be able to charge it again. If you take that battery to way below its safe, low working range for voltage, it might not ever charge again. And that will kill the battery. So keep your ear out, get used to how it sounds, because as that battery gets lower, you need to stop shooting, change your battery, or obviously put it on charge if you don't have another battery. Now, as far as LiPo batteries go, it is written out there on the interwebs, etc., to not recharge your battery when it's warm. So if you've been shooting it, giving it a good old hiding, and if your battery gets a bit warm from use, it's not recommended to recharge it while it's still hot, just because you're really overloading and stressing that battery at that point. Okay, so once we finish using our gel blaster, there's a few little things as far as long life for your gel blaster goes. So one little thing is, if you've been shooting a gel blaster on automatic, you probably can't really see here, but through these slots here there's a blue piston. At the moment my piston is 3/4 of the way back, which means the big power spring up in here is crushed because my piston is pushing it back. What is really recommended as far as mainspring power wise is, when you finish using a gel blaster, when you've been shooting in auto, is to put it in semi-automatic and do at least 3 or 4 shots to try and get that piston to park forward. That means your spring is not compressed and going to be going into storage with the spring under pressure. If you leave that spring under constant pressure, it will more than likely weaken the spring, and your gel blaster will gradually lose power because that spring has been over compressed for a long time. Now, once your piston is forward, it is most definitely 100% recommended to disconnect your battery. I've just disconnected my battery there. Doesn't matter what your gel blaster is, you should always disconnect your battery. If your gel blaster has a MOSFET in it, you must remove your battery, because even if you don't, that MOSFET will continue to slowly use a little bit of power, and as we said before, it will drain your battery to literally nothing and probably won't recharge. Unfortunately, I lent a blaster to someone a while ago and the battery was left in. I didn't even think to check it once we packed away, and that battery was then completely carted because the MOSFET continued to suck that battery and there was absolutely nothing left. Once your gel blaster, your battery is disconnected, put it back in the bag, put it back in the box, lock it away and take it home. Now, as far as storage and transport, it is actually legally requirement now to have your gel blaster bag or box locked in transport. Also, once you get home, it should be locked away from little fingers and children and anyone else that could just come and grab it off your shelf and walk down the road with it. It's purely to prevent people getting themselves in trouble from being out in public with the gel blaster, which, as we all know, you shouldn't be doing. You should only be using them in private property and at gel blaster specific venues. So have a little padlock on your bag. Even if it's just 2 zips padlocked together, at least you're doing the right thing at trying to stop someone from getting a gel blaster out. On my little wall that you can't see here, where my gel blasters store, it's basically a pegboard that I move the pegs around to where I want the gel blasters to sit. I made up a couple of very basic wire tethers with the crimp ends, and then I screwed a little mini handle hook kind of thing to the board, and then little padlocks. This goes in and out through the trigger guards of the different pistols, gel blasters, and it padlocks it to the wall. Put the key elsewhere, they are locked to the wall, they're safe, no one can get them. Guys, that about wraps up the video. Any questions, please ask. Any comments, please put them in the comments below so I can then post a video on that if you need to know more. But the general basics are: charge your battery, grow your gels with a full bottle of water so they don't run out of water, disconnect your battery when finished, and lock it up in your bag. Thanks very much, guys. We'll see you again soon.